Hello everyone. This video is going to be about how to format your college MLA papers. This is a topic that matters because good formatting makes your papers easier to read and to grade. Bad formatting causes confusion and/or makes essays harder to grade. And when I say harder to grade, what I specifically mean is harder to annotate in the document. The tools I'm going to cover are how to double space, how to insert your page number, centering, paragraph indents, and insert page break. These are some of the things that students often try to approximate by typing, by using the space key or the tab key. But there are actually much easier tools within the Microsoft Word program that make it much easier. So I'm going to hop over to our sample paper and we'll get started. All right, so here we have an essay by Elsie McStudentson. By all accounts, this is a pretty good essay, but the formatting makes it harder to read and to grade. So to fix this, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to select and select. This makes it easier to have all the text highlighted to manipulate. I'm going to come up to the paragraph settings in the toolbar here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the line and paragraph spacing. This has the lines with the little arrows. Then I'm going to select 2, which means that there will be double the space between the lines. This is how the spacing between the lines should look on the paper. When you have paragraphs, the paragraphs shouldn't have any extra spacing between them. This is all the spacing that you need between the paragraphs. So if you press enter twice to make a new paragraph, that's wrong. It should only be 1 space. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my essay itself, just the essay, because not everything needs to be indented. And to indent my paragraphs, so it's easier to tell when one paragraph begins and the other ends, I'm going to come up again to paragraph, and I'm going to click this little box in the corner for paragraph settings. Under indentation, I click special and first line. There are other very legitimate ways to have your paragraphs indented to achieve this, but this is the simplest. So now all of my paragraphs are indented correctly. This appears pretty good. I'm not going to change anything to this, except for the title. The title I want centered. So in paragraph settings, I'm going to click this box that shows the text in the middle of the page. I don't have to do anything else to my title. I don't have to underline it. I don't have to bold it. I don't have to put it in a bigger font. This is how it should look. All of your font actually size 11 or 12, thereabouts, in a plain Jane or boring font. The most exciting thing about your paper should not be the font, it should be your awesome writing. I'm going to come down to the end, and I'm also going to center my works cited title. Again, no bolding, no any of that. This happens to be at the start of the correct page, but what if it weren't? What if it were right here? Some students try to make the works cited page by pressing enter a bunch of times. That will get very quickly exhausting because then you have to constantly readjust your essay, your works cited page as you write your essay, right? You type more paragraphs here, you have to move this because this ended up in the middle of the page again. There's an easier way. There's a much easier way. So first I'm going to undo this. Now, the best way to add a works cited page is to insert a page break. So wherever your essay ends, whether you have finished it or are in the process of writing it, put your cursor at the end of what you've written for your essay, and then come up to the Insert tab. Right here on the left-hand corner is the page options. Click Page Break. This means that if you have the works cited page right here at the top, no matter how much you add to your essay here, no matter how many more pages it has added to it, this will always be the end of your document, and the works cited will always be at the top of it. It's sort of a permanent placeholder almost. So our works cited page is pretty good. We're not done yet though. We have to, again, center the title. And there's a couple of errors here. We need to italicize our book title. This is different from the essay title. An essay or article or a poem, anything tiny that gets contained within a bigger book or website, that has to go in quotation marks, just as Elsie McStinson has done here. The title of the website or the book itself, that goes in italics. And ideally the title capitalization is correct. There we go. This is a really good works cited. The last thing to do for the works cited is to do the hanging indents. Some students try to do this by adding a bunch of spaces. That doesn't work in Microsoft Word anymore. It doesn't seem to recognize the extra spaces. So well, it does if you start in the middle. If you start at the end here, it just moves the whole thing. The easiest way to do this, it's so simple, but it's not intuitive at all. You come up to the paragraph settings, just like you did for the other indents. And when you go to special, you click hanging. There are other ways to do this, but this is the easiest. You can see then that the first line is on the margin and all subsequent lines are indented. It's kind of like the reverse of a normal essay paragraph indent. This structure makes it much, much easier to find exactly what the reader needs when they're reading your paper, assuming that you have the hanging indents in place and you have alphabetized your entries. Because say this was 10 entries long, you know, if I'm looking for, oh, as Jimmy Baca once said, through language I was free, if I'm looking for that source because I'm thinking, oh my God, that is the coolest line ever, I have to read more by Mr. Jimmy Santiago Baca, I, as the reader, am going to look for Baca in the works cited. And so I'm going to scroll through the A's and through the B's until I get to B.A. Baca. Well, let's see. That looks like a pretty good essay here. Well formatted. This would not cause any confusion in terms of the actual physical layout of the paper. The final step is to insert the page number. So sometimes students try to do this by, we'll come down here as where's a good example? This is a good place as an example. Some students try to do this by hitting enter here and then typing the page number into the body of the document. But that's wrong. Because you have split the paragraph, it confuses the reader. There's a much easier way that doesn't confuse the reader. what you do is you come up to the insert function and you click page number under header and footer. Top of page, plain number 3. What this does is it puts a changing page number in the header, which is the top margin of the document, and it makes it consistent. So it's not page 1 on 3 pages, it's actually page 1, 2, and 3. The next thing that you do is you add your last name, and then to get out of the header and back into the body of the document, you just double click on the body of the document. And there you have it. I can't find any errors in it now. This is a good formatted paper, well formatted paper. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know.